Okay, so this is the fourth lesson on this essay, and it is about writing your introduction. So this is an introductory paragraph, right? So it is an entire paragraph that introduces the reader to what you're writing about, whoever's reading your essay, and it is going to be your first paragraph, right? Your first paragraph. It's your opening paragraph. Most of you did this fine in the essay about Hercules in Mood with the video, but a few of you either didn't go in and add this paragraph, you just put a conclusion on the end, or you put it after your body paragraphs, right? Because you kind of did it in the order that we wrote it. But what you want to do is, you have your heading and you have your title. You want to push your body paragraph down and stick in another paragraph. So it will be the first paragraph of your essay once it's written, okay? And there's two purposes for an introductory paragraph, okay? It kind of grabs readers' attention. Hopefully it's interesting and creative. And it will let the reader know what you're writing about, the topic of your composition. In this case, what our essay about, of course, is character traits. So to organize your introduction, the first thing you want to do is grab your reader's attention. So we call it an introductory statement, right, or a hook. And it introduces what you're writing about, the topic, the fact that we're writing about character traits, and possibly how they affect a quest, right? And that it's in mythology. That is also important, okay? So there's several ways to do this. One way to do it is to take an important word, like a quality or character trait, or a particular character trait that they shared, maybe bravery or determination, right? And then you define it, okay? So it could be character traits, it could be quest, it could be success, right? What does it mean to be successful, right? Any of those kinds of things. And then you would take that word that you've defined and explain how it's relevant, right? So you're going to write a few extra sentences in there about how it, so let's say you define success, right? And then you say, in Greek mythology or in Greek and Roman mythology, right, the protagonist often has to face a quest, and their character trait affects their success in that. And you tie that word success to the idea of character traits affecting that, right? And so you add a couple extra sentences. The other way you could do it is a general statement or fact or question about the topic. Again, character traits. So I give you 3 examples here. A protagonist's character traits have substantial impact when facing challenges, right? Which is true, right? So the kind of character they are, the traits they have, will impact the outcome when they face challenges, right? In mythology, so here I've tied in the idea that we're talking about myths, characters often make mistakes, revealing qualities about them that affect how the story ends. So this statement ties a few things together. Lets the reader know we're talking about mythology, that we're talking about the characters in mythology, that we're talking about the fact that maybe they're making mistakes. So this might be a good one if you're using Hercules or Icarus or Midas, right? And then that, or even Orpheus, and then they those mistakes reveal qualities, so the character traits about them, and it affects how the story ends. It affects their quest, right? So it kind of ties all those things together. The last example I have here is a question. How important are character traits to the outcome of the story? They are very important. So if you ask a question, if you start with a question, you do need to answer that question before you move on. It's kind of similar to define the topic. If you define the topic, then you have to explain how it relates, that word that you've defined relates to what you're writing about. You have to do the same thing with the question, right? And how you have to answer it. The next step is you're going to introduce what you're specifically talking about. So you've identified 2 characters and 2 myths, right? And so you want to mention them by name. You want to identify each character and the text that they're from, the myth that you're going to be talking about in your essay, and you want to be specific. So the name of the character, Demeter, Orpheus, Hercules, Midas, Icarus, Daedalus, in the myth, whatever myth they're from, the title of the myth, and the second character's name in the myth and the title of that myth, and then what you're going to be doing, share similar character traits. that affect their ability to achieve their goals, right? So again, kind of restating here that we're looking at similar character traits that affect their outcome of their quest. Another way, I just written it a second way, is doing the same thing. So the quests of, and then the name of the character, the title and the myth they're from, the name of the second character, the title and the myth they're from, are affected by the character traits they share. And then a final way to do it, and these are not the only three, there are obviously other ways. The name of your character in the myth and the title, the name of the second character in the myth and the title share several character traits. So this one just focuses a little more simply on sharing the character traits, okay? And which way you choose to do this kind of depends a little bit on what you did up here. You don't want it to be super repetitive. So if you're already talking about how qualities affect quests, right, you may not want to mention the quests again, right? But if you didn't, if you're just talking about the characters and story ending, then maybe be more specific about the quest or goals or something like that. So it depends a little bit on what you did in step 1, which method serves best in step 2. It should flow really easily, but not be repetitive. And then the final step is to, again, summarize the task or restate the prompt. You absolutely should not be using I or the word discussing or analyzing or anything like that. This is a statement, kind of answers the question in a statement, right? So up here, right, how important are character traits? They're important. Why? The character traits change the ending of their stories, right? That's a flat out statement. It's kind of you're telling the reader what you're going to prove, right? Their quest is successful or not successful because of the traits. Their character traits are revealed as they face challenges, right? So this last step here doesn't just restate what you've already said. It is the final proof, right? What are you proving, right? You're proving that it changes their stories, or you're proving that they're successful or not successful because of their traits, or that, we're seeing it as they face these challenges, right? And so that's what this final kind of statement in your introduction should be. So let's look at some examples that I did. Okay, so we did color code them to match the checklist for you. So our first step was blue, right? And it was a general statement, right, or question about the topic. So if we look briefly back at my checklist, there you go. Step 1, that's the second way of doing it, not the define the topic, but the second way of doing it. And so my example, how important are character traits to the outcome of a story? Turns out they're very important. So again, ask a question, answer the question. And then I'm going to introduce, right, both characters and the myth they're from. So, my character's name in the myth blank and the other character's name in the myth and that myth have similar character traits that affect their ability to achieve their quests. So, I start off with the idea that we're talking about character traits, then myths in these specific characters, and that they have similar character traits, and that it affects their goals, right? It affects their ability to achieve their quests. Their character traits change the endings of their stories. Okay, so those are my 3 steps. The second way to start is simply with a definition. So I wanted to do one like that. So if you're going to use a word and define the word, I chose intelligence. That would be one of the character traits, right? So intelligence, the capacity for understanding. 2 characters that share the quality of intelligence. Okay, so now I'm tying the idea of intelligence to the fact that this is a shared character trait, along with several others. So I'm not just going to talk about intelligence. I'm going to talk about several other traits. And then the name of the character in the myth blank, the name of the character in the myth blank. So how you do this, again, depends on what word that you're defining, right? But if you said, like let's say success, right? And then you say 2 characters who have a quest, and the success of that quest depends on similar traits are. And then you could do the characters, right? So, or you could do quality, right? Or trait, right? And then 2 characters who share similar character traits. And then finally, to wrap it up, the characters' qualities are gradually revealed to the reader through their efforts to achieve their quests, right? And so again, tying the idea that their character traits impact their quests in that final statement, okay, without being repetitive. You'll notice these are not long, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences. This one's 1, 2, 3 sentences, okay? But having the different pieces is really important to having a quality introduction.